on this computer. All right. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am delighted to have you here and also heartbroken that we need to be doing this and doing this yet again because we were talking about how to talk about school shootings with your kids and the fact that this continues in bigger and bigger numbers is really, I don't have the words for that. And there are so many ways that I don't know how to create change or make it better. But this I do know. I do know how to help you as a parent find your feet again when these tragedies happen and find the ways to talk to your kids in a way that makes it a little bit easier to have these difficult conversations. So I'm doing the piece that I know how to do. Hopefully you will be doing the pieces that you know how to do. And my hope is that that creates a ripple that makes the world a better place and maybe changes the trajectory of all of the different ways that the world is heartbreaking right now. So let's get into it. We are going to start by just taking a few breaths. So just if you are open to and comfortable with putting your hands on your heart. And there's a lot of research that says when we put our hands on our heart and take intentional breaths, that it aligns our heart and mind. It lowers our blood pressure. It calms our anxiety. It does all sorts of amazing things for our physiology. So as we are heading into talking about this hard topic, just put your hands on your heart. We're going to take just 5 deep breaths, just in and out, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And if you are watching the recording and you want to take more breaths, pause, keep going. But we're gonna keep moving to the next. So first, I just wanted to thank you. I do not take your time lightly or for granted. I know that you all have many, many, many things that you could be doing with your time. So I am really grateful that you are spending it with me, but also I am really grateful that you are trusting me with this type of information. It is important that your kids hear messages from you of how these events are happening, what is going on, that they are getting your values as part of this message. And I really I really appreciate the trust that you are putting in me to consider the tools and strategies that I'm going to offer as a possibility to add to your toolkit. I am really honored that this gets to be what my life work is. So, and the final piece is I just think coming together. And even if you are watching this on the recording versus being with me live, we are recording this live with parents virtually with me. Coming together, knowing that you are not the only parent trying to have this conversation, knowing that you are not the only one struggling for the words, knowing that you are not the only one who is heartbroken every time we hear about instances again and again, makes a difference. Parenting can be really lonely. Mass violence can feel really lonely and isolating. And when we come together, we remember that we are not alone. When we come together, we remember there are other good people doing good in this world, and that helps make these really hard moments a little bit easier. So know that you are not alone. And as often as we can, we need to keep coming together and reminding each other that there is love and goodness here in this world. Okay, I'm going to get myself together and we're going to keep going. So, this is not about what to tell your kids. This is about how to talk to your children, right? I want to make sure that your children are getting your values and your perspective and your views. It's part of why I'm doing this. I think it's really important that parents are talking to their children so that they hear what you believe. You are passing down your family's legacy to your children. I'm not here to tell you what's right and wrong. I trust that you are a good human with great values that you're going to pass on to your children. So I'm not here to tell you what to tell them. I'm here to tell you how to talk to them about it, how to have these conversations, how to impart this information to them in a way that informs them, allows them to know what's happening, allows them to stay as safe as possible while also not terrifying them. That's what we're going to be doing today. So, a little bit about me in case we're first meeting for the first time. I'm Dr. Marcy. I, for 25 years, have been helping families and organizations navigate conflict and hard conversations. I have written 2 books, Love Your Family Again and Love Your Classroom Again, that are action-based strategies for how you can parent better. I've done a podcast that is conversations with parents about how to move through parenting differently. I do in-home intensives with families. I do speaking engagements around conflict resolution and mental health. I've been on national television as an expert. I tell you all of this in the event that we haven't met before for you to know that the reason I'm doing this is because I have a long career of helping parents and helping professionals have hard conversations. And talking about school shootings certainly is. So let's get into that. Okay. I also just want to share what my beliefs are. Sometimes it's helpful that while I'm not here to tell you what you should believe, for you to just know the perspective that I am coming from. So here are a few things I believe, especially in relation to school shootings. I believe that all lives are valuable and that violence is never the answer. I believe that schools should be a safe haven for children and adults alike. I believe that children should be able to go to school and focus on learning, that should be what's happening in school buildings. They should be learning about history and math and science and all those academic things. They should be learning to make friendships. They should be learning to navigate big feelings. They should be there learning, not learning how to protect themselves. And I believe that every teacher is a superhero simply for showing up and deciding to make a career out of educating young kids. They are superheroes, but they should not have to be literal superheroes and fight bullets for our children. Many of them do, too many of them do. And that should not be part of what is required to be a teacher today. All right. So as you can see, I believe that we should have our feelings and let people know our feelings while not falling apart while doing that. So it is okay for you to have emotions while you're having these conversations with your kids, right? Have all of your feelings. It is really important that you have a space as a grown-up to feel all of the things, all of the sadness, all of the anger, all of the frustration, all of the confusion, all of the everything. But that is not necessarily the state within which you should be talking to your children. So when there is the time and space for you to have all of your feelings when you get the news before you talk to your kids, do that. But sometimes you're finding out the situation in real time with your children present, and you have to kind of take a deep breath and dive into the conversation with your kids without a lot of preparation. So know that there is somewhere else that you're going to be able to go have those feelings, have those emotions. It is okay for your kids to know you're angry, but they should not see you punching walls. It is okay for your kids to see that you are sad, but they should not see you on the floor sobbing, right? It is important that your kids know that you're not going to talk about this like a stoic situation, because gun violence is terrifying. It is heartbreaking. It is devastating, especially when it's in our schools. But your kids should not have to take care of you in these conversations. And that's really what this is all about. So make sure you have time with friends, with loved ones. Make sure you have time to take care of yourself. If you can before the conversation, great. If you can't, then after. So just some considerations for you as the parent, because sometimes we just like skip over that and get right into the kids. And I think it's really important that you have tools for yourself. So I want you to consider these 4 different areas for your own self-care, because school shootings touch all of these areas. Our mental health touches all of these areas. So your mental health, right? What is happening in your brain? How are you thinking about these? What are the stories that are being repeated in your head? What are the words you're using to tell yourself what's happening? And are you telling yourself it's not okay that you're this upset or that you shouldn't be feeling a certain way, right? Sometimes when tragedies happen, we feel numb. We don't feel anything. And I've done that and then had a story of like, I must be a horrible person if I'm not upset about this, or I'm too upset about this and I must be over emotional. What are you telling yourself? And what do you need to do to come back to the fact that whatever you are thinking about an incident is okay? They're just thoughts. These are the thoughts that are going through your mind. It is natural. It is normal. We all have thoughts that are weird and we don't want other people to necessarily know. That's part of the process, especially when mind-blowing things happen, which they are happening right now. Like it is shocking sometimes when we hear the stories of school shootings. More and more, I'm hearing about an incident going, how did it go down that way? Like, what is going on in this world, right? So consider, what do you need for your literal mental health? What do you need for your emotional health? How are you going to feel your feelings? Do you need to lie on your kitchen floor and cry for a while? I'm a big fan of doing that. Got to tell you, it helps me. Do you need to journal out your feelings? Do you need to talk to someone, right? I have an amazing therapist. Maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a trusted leader of some type. Like, who are you, how are you navigating those feelings? Physically, right? All of these things land in our body. How are you physically taking care of ourselves, right? Sometimes when we hear bad news, we just want to like eat or sleep or hide or drink, or we physically do things to our body to negate what we're feeling. How are you taking care of your body? How is this landing in your body? Maybe you need to go for a run. Maybe you need to, for me, I often need to like go for yoga. Go to a yoga class. Can't do it myself in my own house. I need to be around other humans who are also taking care of their body. That's one of my mental health hacks to take care of my physical being. And then spiritually, whatever you believe, whether you believe in something bigger than yourself or not, what are you doing in these instances, in these moments to reconnect to spirituality? Now, if you don't believe in a higher power, to me, that then means connecting in with community or nature. If you believe in a higher power, how are you connecting with that person or the community that builds you in there? Right? Do you need to go into the forest and talk to the trees? Do you need to go to church and talk to a leader? Do you need to sit quietly in prayer for yourself? But school shootings can have us question what is going on in a bigger sense, and remembering that there is something larger than us that is here to help us can really, really make a difference for so many people. So if that is a path for you, consider what do you need there. Now, any of these four realms, you can decide, Dr. Marcy, that's not my thing. Like, I'm good. I don't need physical help. I'm fine with that piece. Great. I don't need the spiritual help. I'm good. Great. But just consider, where are these pieces in your life? And especially when some tragedy happens, how are you umping the well-being area to make sure that you're being taken care of? Because as a parent, we just sort of forget ourselves sometimes and just dive into our kids. I don't want that to be the case for you. Okay. Now that you're okay, a little bit taken care of, let's talk about a framework for having critical conversations, right? There's lots of ways for us to have hard conversations with our kids. And this is a framework that you can use absolutely when school shootings happen, when you want to talk to them about this. But it's also a framework that you can use for any critical conversation that you have to have with your child, because it helps walk through and helps you think about what are the steps to have this experience. Okay, there are 5 steps. The first one is breathe. You, as the grown up, as the adult, as the parent, starting the conversation, just breathe. Again, if you have the space to go take care of yourself before the conversation, cool. If you're really hot, like if you are seeing red, ready to go do something, that's not the time to talk to your kids about it. And if your kids are coming to you in that moment, you can say, you know what? My emotions are not in check right now. We need to talk about this a little bit later because I have to go get myself together. Model that for them. Not every moment is the right moment for a conversation. It's okay for you to pause so that you can have a thoughtful, meaningful, intentional conversation with your kids where you don't put more on them or add more fear to the situation that is already really scary. So that's 1. 2, find out the facts. And that means the facts about the incident, what actually happened in the cycles of news that we go through in the world of social media. We are watching in real time how misinformation gets spun, how when there isn't known facts, people are making it up, sometimes intentionally, to whatever it is that they want to be doing in the world around that, and sometimes unintentionally, where they think they found out something and it ends up being wrong. So find out the facts about the incident, and it's okay to say, we don't know. We don't have that information yet. I don't have that information. I haven't looked into it yet. I need to go find trusted sources. But also finding out facts, this step 2 means finding out facts of what does your child know? What have they been reading or watching or listening to? What information have they gathered? Because they might have already like spent 2 hours on social media, heard about this from 17 different people. They may know exactly what's happening. And again, what they know may or may not be true, right? What we hear in the world of social media sometimes isn't actually facts. And your kid may be holding on to a story that is creating more fear that is scarier, that is overwhelming, that you can help clarify. Now, sometimes they have the exact right facts, and you can help them move through and think through those pieces. Okay, step 3 is check in on your kids' emotional and mental health. Like, how are they doing in light of all of this information? You now know what's going on. You now know what they know. We've talked about it a little bit. Like, are they okay? For some kids, they hear about a school shooting, they're like, that has nothing to do with me, and they keep going on their business, or at least in that first moment. For some kids, they feel devastated by it. For some kids, they get confused by it. There are all these different ways our kids react. And especially in that first moment when they're learning something, don't take disengagement or overengagement or having a million questions about it as a sign that there's something wrong. We all deal with crisis. We all deal with grief. We all deal with trauma in different ways. There's not a right or wrong way. So don't get scared that your kid wasn't upset enough. Like, that's not a measure of where your child's heart is. But do check in of like, are they going to need some more emotional support? And it might not look like it has anything to do with the school shooting. It might look like they're flipping out about homework right now, or they're not eating dinner, or, just notice some of those things that are happening or not happening of, are they moving differently in the world? Because that might give you indications if they can't tell you themselves if they're okay or not. They might not know. I mean, I know that there have been times where I'm like, I'm fine when I'm not, and I just didn't know. And somebody else was like, do you realize you haven't stopped moving for the past 3 hours in a really fast way? And I'm like, oh, yep, that is part of my coping skills. I just ignore it and get into super drive mode, right? What are you noticing that your kid is doing that's different? That will give you clues on if they need extra support. They might not. Okay, 4, once you have all of that information, you make an action plan and you put it in place, right? So that might be, you talk about what are you going to do in light of a specific incident in order to make it better. Are you going to collect a care package and send it? Are you going to send cards? Are you going to go, if you believe in a higher power and you want to go to a religious place and pray for them? If you want to do something for your own community to help bring people together, what is the action step that you want to do in this immediate moment? But also, is there a bigger plan? Right? If something happens in your kid's school, what's your plan with your family? How are you going to connect and talk to each other? Make a plan, put it in place so they know. Action is the antidote to anxiety. And so if they know what the plan is, it gives them something to hold on to. It gives you something to hold on to. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're staying safe. And then 5 is a maintenance plan. Keep coming back to it, right? This is never a one and done. Hard conversations, especially about school shootings, are never a one and done. 1, because unfortunately they keep happening, so we have to keep revisiting the topic. But 2, because even if it was just one instance that you're talking about, checking in the next day and then a few days later and then a few days after that with your kid to make sure that as the information settles in their system, they stay okay or they come back to being okay is really important. And so you need to make sure that you keep checking in with them. And if you have like a tween or a teen, they might roll their eyes at you being like, Mom, why are we still talking about this? I'm fine, stop. And you'll go, okay, well, I'm glad you're good then. And you keep moving. But I'd rather your kid be annoyed and roll their eyes at you than quietly be struggling and suffering and not know what's happening. So that's part of the job of a parent is, like nudge them a little bit. And if your kid actually needs help, they will end up being really grateful for those moments where you did keep opening that door for them. Okay. So now that you know how to have the hard conversation, right? These are the 5 steps to go through. What are the strategies for a hard conversation specifically around school shooting? How do you actually have the conversation, right? And after this, we're going to talk about some of the words to use because these are hard topics. This is a hard thing to say. No one ever wants to say to their child, someone walked into a school with a gun. Like, you don't want to say that. And it's important to use those words. It's important to be clear. Okay, so what are some of the strategies for having this conversation? 1 is talk to your kids. If there is one thing that you take away from this entire conversation is that you need to be talking to your kids. You need to bring it up. I know you don't want to. You need to ask the questions. You need to share the information. Avoiding it isn't the answer. And I know that as a parent, especially if you have little ones, you want to avoid it like everything because you want to protect them as much as possible. And even them just knowing that this is happening, knowing that this is going on, knowing that somebody is suffering in the world, you don't want to tell your child that. I get it. I totally get it. And they're going to hear it from somewhere. They're going to hear it from someone. And I want to make sure that the message they're getting about these instances is the message you want them to hear. I want your values imposed. I want your perspective about what happened to be what they hear first, to be their grounding voice for them. And maybe they'll hear it from their school teacher who you're really aligned with, and that'd be great. But maybe they're going to hear it from a kid on the playground whose family has very different values. Or maybe they're going to hear it from somebody walking down the street, right? In New York City, you hear all sorts of things walking down the street. Maybe you're going to hear it because you're at a restaurant and the news is on in the background. Our kids hear things everywhere. And so you have to find the age appropriate language. But I want it to come from you. So have the conversation, bring up the topic, even though you don't want to. And then to use the actual words. As I just said a few minutes ago, it is really hard to say some of these words. I have done crisis response where I've gone into schools after there has been tragedy, and I have had to say some really hard things to young kids. But the simplicity and the honesty is important. And so it's important that you use the words to make them understand what happened. It's also important that if someone died in one of the school shootings that you're talking to them about, that you say the word died. Especially in the US, in English, we have so many euphemisms for how to talk about death. And for young kids, that can be really confusing. Even middle-aged who think they know, like our tweens, they think they know, but it still doesn't land the same way. And when you say someone died, it helps them understand what that means. Because if you say they went away, they're in a better place now. Sometimes that's confusing because we're going to go on vacation and go to a better place now. That's different. Or a parent goes to work. They're no longer with us, but that's really different. So you need to make sure that the words you use make it clear to your child what happened and what that is different from their day at school and how they are safe versus what happened wherever the school shooting happened. Right? It's really hard. You also don't have to oversay it, right? You don't have to say death or died 17 times. You can say one sentence about, there were students, there was a teacher, there was, whoever it was. You can say one sentence and be done, unless there are questions. We tend to loop language. You don't have to loop it. This is all about having a short and sweet conversation, right? When we're uncomfortable, as grown-ups, most of us will circle around and say it a different way, and maybe it'll make sense if I say it that way, or how else can I explain it to you? And we keep going and we keep going. This is not that moment. You want a short, sweet conversation, even with your older kids. Your plan is to talk for 4 or 5 minutes. Then you're out. Then you're done, unless they keep the conversation going. If they have questions, if they want to know more, then you keep going. If they want to explore thoughts, great. But your goal, your intention walking into this conversation is short and sweet. And also you want to talk to them when you are relatively calm. If you are activated from the news of this information or from something else that's happening in your life, it's not the moment to have it. Because the calmer you are, the clearer you can be to them and the less activated you will make them. If you as the parent walk in and are like, oh my gosh, this really horrible thing happened and it's so bad and it's not okay. Your kids are going to freak out before they ever hear about the incident, about what was happening. They're going to know it's really bad. Whereas you walk in and you say, look, I have some unfortunate news that we need to talk about. That's going to feel really different. And they're going to be calm and be able to listen and process and digest the information. That's what we need for your kids. Again, this is ideal scenarios. And sometimes emotions and when kids ask questions, they don't coincide as easily as I'm making it out to be. But when you know the ideal, you can do your best in real life. That's the goal here. Okay. Once you have your few sentences, your handful of facts that you want to share with them, things that you want to ask them to know what they know, then you're going to ask them if they have any questions. Do you have any questions? Is there anything else you want to know or talk about? And then you pause. And if they have no questions, then you move on. If they have questions, you answer them honestly. But you move on. And you don't move on to like, okay, now go do homework, or okay, now like everyone go to bed. If bedtime is a time for really good, quiet conversations, then maybe. But again, in my dream world, you're going to move on to something connected as a family. You're going to move on to like go play a game of cards. You're going to go move on to having dessert. You're going to do something that brings you together as a family, that allows you to reconnect with love and joy and laughter to the best of your ability in order to reset the energy, in order to reset the emotions, because it is hard having these conversations. And if we don't do something to like literally shake it off, then that might be the energy that you all go into. And you're going to feel a little like, oh, are they okay? Am I okay? What's going on? Whereas if you then sit down and play a game all together or do something else really fun together, then you're going to be able to see if they're able to come back or if they're kind of sitting in it. It'll give you a lot of information, but also it helps you, it helps your heart, it helps their heart. So go do something good with them afterwards. Okay. Now, I said before, action is the antidote to anxiety. And I'm saying it again because in these conversations, I want you to talk about actions. What are you going to do? What are they going to do in order to keep themselves safe, but also in order to support whatever community was in the middle of this crisis when you hear it, right? So I talked about this a little bit before. Are you going to send cards? Are you going to send donations? Are you going to send care packages? Are you going to I know that I've had families that I work with who will go through their house and pick out, have everyone will pick out 2 or 3 toys to send, right? When families are devastated, different communities and different shootings have different flavors. So what do people need in light of the events that happened? And what can you do as a family? What can you actually do to help heal, whether it's that community, whether it's your own community? As some of you saw, part of the reason I am doing this webinar right now is because this is part of how I heal when tragedy happens. There were too many school shootings last week for me to cope with. And I thought, what can I do to make the world a better place? What can I do to help? And this is part of what I can do to help. So I am here doing this, sharing information because it's how I can help. What are you going to do? But also, what are you going to do to help heal your heart? What do your kids need to do to help heal their hearts? Actions are so helpful, and we don't always think that way. We sometimes think about the concepts, the ideas, the feelings. I want the actions to be part of the conversation. Okay. And then you need to revisit this conversation. I know you don't want to, but you got to do that check-in, right? That last step of that maintenance plan of going back to it and back to it and back to it. Let your kid be a little bit annoyed, but that's how you know that they're safe, that they're processing the information, that they're emotionally capable, and that's how they know that the door is open for you. And then the final piece is be honest. Tell them the truth even when it's hard. I wish we lived in a world where we never had to have these conversations with our kids, where this wasn't a reality, and it is. And so I wish that you could say to your kids, oh, this will never happen in your school. You will always be safe and it is always going to be fine because you are always going to be protected. But that's not true. And so you can't tell them that. You can't say, you will always be safe. But you can say, we're going to do all of these things to keep you safe. School is putting in these protocols to keep you safe. I'm doing this to keep you safe. You can do this to keep you safe. This is what's happening in the world to change. And you can say, like, these are the things that I wish would change in this world. These are the things that I'm calling my political representatives to advocate for, right? Whatever the actions are, talk about that honestly without attaching like as much fear. You want to pull that back as much as you can. Scary. There's no way to change that, but be honest with your kids about what's true. Okay. So now what is the language we use? Right? Like we know the facts of what happens in school shootings, but what do we say, especially to some of their hard questions? Like, why does this happen? Or why did that person walk into a school with a gun? Why? What is this about? The truth is, like, I don't ever have an answer to that. And it's okay to say that. You can say, I don't know. I don't know. You can say, this is confusing. Yeah, like it is. It's really confusing. You're right. You should be safe in school. And the fact that this happens in school, it is confusing. I wish it was different. Great answer. I wish it was different. Let's see if we can find the answers out together. If you don't know something, your kid is asking, and you think it is a find outable piece of information, like let's go look that up. Or if you think it happened one way and your kid thinks it happened a different way, rather than being like, I'm right, you're wrong. No, you're right, I'm wrong, right? Like that debate, which we get into all the time with our kids, especially if it's about something as sensitive as a school shooting, you want to be able to say, like, well, you think it was A and I think it was B. So let's go find out together. Let's look up information together and see. Let's find out. And it's okay to say, I'm really sad. It's okay to say, this is heartbreaking. It's okay for them to know how you are feeling. It's okay for them to know you're angry. Again, I don't want them seeing you on the floor crying in a ball. I don't want them seeing you punching a wall, but them knowing that you're angry and saying, like, I'm really angry, so I'm going to go for a run. I'm really sad, so I'm going to hug you really tight tonight and tell you I love you extra. That's all part of teaching them how to cope with their feelings, is telling them how you feel and showing them what you're going to do with it. So you can say, I'm really sad. Okay, other ideas about the language we use the action words of the event. I know I already talked about it, but I'm repeating it because sometimes that's important. Use open-ended questions, right? So rather than saying, you know, are you sad about this? Say, how do you feel hearing this news? You know, when you say, like, do you have any questions? Open that up to possibilities so that they know they could ask anything, right? You want to create space for them to feel safe sharing their voice. So we ask yes, no questions. They're just going to say yes or no because it's easier. And especially for a kid who's not super chatty, they're just going to be like, let me give you the quick answer so I can get out of this. But if you ask them, like, have your friends been, what have your friends been saying about this? Instead of saying, have your friends been talking about it? What have you heard? Instead of, have you heard about it? Right. And it'll take you a minute to figure out. You'll do it wrong and then you'll try again next time. It's all good. It's part of the learning process. It's not a must. It just helps the conversation unfold with more ease, especially because it's a hard conversation to have. And you want to avoid inflammatory or retaliatory language, right? Sometimes we have really big feelings as grown-ups about what we think should or shouldn't happen or how things should or shouldn't go based on what's going on. And it is okay to communicate with your kids the concepts of that. But we don't want to add more violence to a world that is already too violent. We don't want to add more aggression to a world that is already so heated. So much of this is about how can we come back together, right? So you want to make sure that you are using language with your kids of how can we come back together? Because the number one reason for school shootings is an unresolved argument. And so we need to teach our kids how to get along, how to agree to disagree, how to cope when things don't go our way. And I know that having a conversation about school shootings as a things didn't go my way feels like a wild concept. But every moment that you show the possibility of coming together versus more division, the more possibility they see in this world of us being able to work through different differences and navigating challenging moments with other people with more grace than what we're seeing right now. So it is important that even in this really hard moment, you don't make it an us versus them or an inflammatory moment for your kids to learn it is okay and we can come together in our pain in light of tragedy. That's part of the answer. Okay, and it's not necessarily a language to use, but because we're getting to the end, I want to remind you to love your kids, to love your kids, to love every day, to love every moment, to love every adventure that you have with them, because it is a wild world out there and we don't know what tomorrow brings and we can't make those guarantees. We don't know what they will be part of or what they will see or what they will see through screens. There is so much out there that is hard and life can be so busy that we can forget to stop and pause and appreciate the families that we have and love all of the like annoying things when your kid doesn't put their clothes away after their shower. Like one day you're going to miss that. So love every moment, love every adventure, and love every day with your kids. And hopefully some of that will help them expand that love into more places because we really do need that right now. So here are just some things. This is not about how to have that conversation about school shootings. This is what I just figured while you're here. What are some of the things we should teach our kids in order for them to make it through these moments in life a little bit better? Teach your kids kindness, teach them love, teach them tolerance, teach them curiosity, teach them compassion, teach them to be human, teach them to appreciate other humans. I think that for me, when I stop and I think about all of the things that are happening and how school shootings have become such a thing, it always comes back to me that I feel like we're lacking humanity, that we have somehow forgotten that every human's life matters. There is value in every person. So I'm hoping that maybe if I remind you of that and you remind your kids of that, we can start a ripple that'll change the world. Because I want to do more trainings on how to make the world a better place and less about how to cope with the tragedies that happen. But right now, we're in the coping with the tragedy moment. So we're going to do that. And we need those skills too. It's not an either or, it's a both and. But teach your kids some kindness and love, and let's see if we can make some changes around that. Okay, we are going to, we have like 3 more things. One is I wanted to give you the slides, and I didn't know how to do it other than this way. So you can either type into a web browser, talk.ac.Dr. Marcy Beagle, and then put in SS 2025, and it will come up. It's a little bit, just a survey so I can hear what other ideas would you want? Was this helpful for you? Some of that, but also then at the end, it gives you the slides. If you want to give me your email address and join my mailing list, I send out a Friday note about the world, about things that are happening, about strategies to make life a better place. Great. If you don't, you can just click through to the end and get the slides. You can also just scan the QR code. So if you're not on your phone, you can just scan that for your phone, with your phone. So would love your feedback, would love your thoughts. And if you want the slides, just wanted that to be available and accessible for you. Okay, with that, we're going to do 2 more things. One, we're going to do a loving kindness prayer, which is just a way to add more goodness to the world. And then we're going to do questions at the end. Okay, so I want you to know that the questions are coming. But so I'm going to put on the screen, loving kindness is done as a call and response. So I'm going to say it, and then you're going to repeat it. If you are somewhere where you can say it out loud, great. If you just want to say it in your head, great. And we're going to do 3 rounds. You don't have to remember any of this. I'm going to tell you at the start of each round who it's for. But first, we do it for ourselves because we all need to be a little kinder to ourselves. The second is going to be for your family or your community if you want to make it a little bit bigger. But I think that we need more love in our families most often, more love in our immediate communities. And then we're going to do it for communities that have been impacted by school shootings. So we're going to do those 3 rounds, and then we're going to do questions. All right. So here we go. This is how love and kindness goes. Okay. So I tend to put my hands on my heart because, as you heard, that does a lot of good things for our system, and it just helps me connect to love a little bit better. So this round is for you. You are saying these words to give back to yourself. And it's a call and response. So I'll say it and then you say it. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live in peace no matter what I am given. May my heart be filled with love and kindness. Okay, now we're going to do a second round for your immediate family or your immediate community. Okay. May we be safe. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we live in peace no matter what we are given. May our hearts be filled with love and kindness. Okay, and we're going to take a deep breath in and out. And we're going to do one last round for any community that has been impacted by a school shooting. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live in peace no matter what you are given. And may your heart be filled with love and kindness. Okay, and take a deep breath in. Thank you for doing that with me to add a little more goodness to the world. Oh, I gave you the code again. If you found this helpful, send it to 3 parents who could benefit from it. That could be your partner, that could be somebody at your school, that could be a dear friend. But I think that more and more parents need tools and strategies and help of how to talk to their kids about school shootings, how to have hard conversations. And I just want it to be a reminder that we are all in this together. It can feel so hard to tell somebody that this is how you just spent the last hour or so of your time, but maybe it would help them by you telling them that it helped you. So there is my information. There's my website. There's my email if you have questions for me, especially if you're watching the recording. And on all social media platforms, I'm at Dr. Marcy Beagle. So you can come find me wherever you follow people, okay? And with that, we are going to move on to questions. I know that there was one in the chat, so I'm going to start there. What if your child doesn't want to talk about it at all? Do you still make a statement of caring or leave it for them in their own time? I think that's a great question. So if your child doesn't, so to me, this means, and you can clarify if I'm off track, this means that you said to your child, hey, there was a school shooting. Here's what happened. And they're like, yeah, got it. Okay, cool. And they're done and they don't want to talk about it and they want to go back to whatever they were doing before. So I would say I would add one sentence, maybe two, of like, I get that you don't want to talk about this anymore. This weekend, we're going to like make some pictures. We're going to do some art and I'm going to send it to the community that was lost. Or I hear you, like in 1 sec, you're going to get back to your game, but I just want you to remember that this weekend we're going to go for a walk as a family and talk about what we think is great about the world. Or, just one line that helps them cope. Because sometimes kids are doing it because genuinely, like, it's not impacting them. They're not feeling it. And sometimes they're doing it because they don't know what to do with those feelings. And if it's a second and your kid doesn't know how to feel all the, like, what does this mean? You want to give them those coping skills, short and sweet, and then move on, right? So you do want to tell them because they might not even know to ask the question. They might not know that there's a better way, right? I think especially about a lot of our tween and teen kids, they're just like, yeah, I got it. Like they don't know how to feel their feelings, but they assume that there's not a better way than what they do. I've worked with some of those teens. They're really interesting when you give them a tool and they're like, oh, it's like that's surprisingly a good idea, right? So add a short line in there in case they do need a good idea that they didn't know existed. Okay, other questions, thoughts, needs in this moment. I'm just going to give it a minute. Now, if you are watching the recording, you can either put a question, this is going to be on my YouTube channel, in the YouTube chat, and I will be checking this periodically. You can also always email me with your questions because I want to make sure that you are getting the support that you need. Okay, we are just getting lots of thank you. Love the idea of using our words and opinions rather than translating what we hear on the news. Yeah. I mean, I think that our kids it's really helpful for them to hear it from you. Just thank you for having the space for us. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you all for joining me. It has been my honor. I hope you have found it helpful. And let me know if there are other trainings, other information, other topics that would be helpful for you. Until then, take care of yourself and go love your kids. Go do something really fun with them. Go have a party just because it's a day that ends in Y. All right. Thank you, everyone.